MetsMusings is an unofficial, independent podcast covering New York's National League Baseball team. It is not affiliated in any way with Major League Baseball or the New York Mets.
Now it's time for some New York Mets baseball talk. Here's Gary Mack bringing you the latest news and analysis from Mets Nation and the world of baseball on another edition of Mets Musings.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mets Musings. What we're doing this week is we're going to play the show that we recorded last week before we found out about the death of Tom Seaver. We had a show all set to go. We're going to play that show. It's a roundtable show that we did, and it was done right after the trade deadline, so there might be some gap in time, but I hope you enjoy it. We tried to have some fun and answer a lot of questions. So without further ado, here it is, the Roundtable Part 2. Okay, and welcome back. And we thought we would do the Roundtable again that we started last week, and we ran out of time. So this week we have more time, so we're going to continue it. And joining me once again is Jeff Cohen from Baseball and Barbecue and his co-host, the Wilpons lover.
Hello there.
Len?
I didn't go anywhere. You know, the last episode ended abruptly, and I kept thinking you were coming back. So I haven't eaten. I haven't left this room. It's been a week. Oh.
And, of course, my former co-host, Barry Newman, is there under the Galaxy tab.
Hi, guys. Barry?
So we've had some interesting things happen to this ball club. Not really. They still suck, but we have had a trade deadline. And we've had a deadline for bids for the team. So let's start with the trade deadline. The Mets did make a move, though frightening as it is because we don't know what they gave up. They acquired a 36-year-old broken catcher and a 34-year-old third baseman. I love the youth movement on this team. And Miguel Castro, they got from the Baltimore Orioles, all for players name later. The first two guys, Robertson Chirinos, a stellar slugger at a .234 career batting average. And Todd Frazier, the Todd father's coming back.
Wait. Todd Frazier? That one from Tom's in New Jersey? Todd? Unbelievable.
Everybody won the Little League World Series.
Yeah.
Everybody comes back. All right, everybody's thoughts on this, Jeff?
I guess low-risk move, you know, the old player to be named later, except for the Miguel Castro trade. They gave up a left-handed pitcher, Kevin Smith, and cash. And Kevin Smith is, I see, is the ranked number 12 prospect. So, okay, you know, I don't know that much about Miguel Castro, but he's an arm, a serviceable arm, I guess.
Okay, and that's why we don't have any starting pitcher in the minor leagues.
Right.
Because Brody has traded them all away, all the youth. I think it's something like 12 pitchers or 10 pitchers that he's traded away for literally Zippo. Haven't got anything in return for it. So way to go, Brody. Barry, your thoughts on the trades?
Okay, Gary, first of all, I think you should change the name there. It's from Gary Mack to Dripping with Sarcasm. You know what? He didn't do too much damage. Like Jeff said, Smith is the 12th rated prospect in the organization. And at first, when I heard that Todd Frazier was coming back, initially I thought that J.D. Davis was hurt more than they were letting on. I see he's not in the lineup tonight. And as insurance and a defensive replacement, which the Mets can use pretty much at every position when they get into the late innings, and a righty back off the bench, it's not a big deal to get Todd Frazier back. So I have no major problem with the moves that Brody made. I thought it could have been much, much worse.
Well, we're not sure. It could be much, much worse. For all we know, the players to be named later could be Brett Batty or
Oh, no.
or
No!
or we don't know what he's capable of. Well, we kind of know what he's capable of doing, and it's not good.
Now, when do they announce the players to be named later? When is that going to happen?
Who knows? Could be after the season, which might be my guess, because that way they can try to sneak it by you. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. The day before he gets fired by Uncle Stevie, who knows? We really don't know. But Len, what are your thoughts on the trades?
But it's funny, they got cash for someone. I think they got $364,000 cash. They probably needed some of that, I guess. The pitcher that they traded, Smith, who was ranked 12th, I mean, he could be something. I know everyone likes to say, well, they're just prospects, and you never know. But some of these prospects are going to become major league players. And, what about David Peterson? If he had been traded, I mean, he's basically our number 2. I mean, I think they're depleting the farm system, and we're not getting much in return. The players we're getting, I mean, like you said, we got a catcher who's, light stick, really not a great fielder either, actually. I know they wanted Boston's catcher, Velasquez, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess apparently Boston was asking too much. But I just don't have a good feeling about it, especially now. It looks like they're basically saying, you know what, if Stevie Cohen is going to, have this team, the cupboards are going to be bare for him, because I think he better get in here quickly, because there's going to be nothing left. It's going to be like one of those things where you buy the house and then you go into the house and you see that it's, they destroyed it after you bought it, because it looks like they're just trying to win at all costs. And what are they trying to win? A 60-game, exhibition season. So I'm not feeling good. I want to feel positive, and I'm not.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they should have done anything. I don't think they should have let him do anything. And I think, I read somewhere, and I should have saved it, but since he's been here, he traded away Justin Dunn, Anthony Kay, Simeon Woods Richardson, now Kevin Smith, and there's about 5 other pitchers that he traded away, and then he wondered why we have a dearth of starting pitchers coming out of the minors, because he's traded all of them away. And literally got nothing for them. Got nothing for Justin Dunn. Really got nothing for Anthony Kay. Now for Kevin Smith, he got nothing. It's just ridiculous. And how this guy even has a job now is beyond my expectations. But so let's talk about how he may not have a job, because we may have a new owner. I'll believe it. I'm like Barry on this one. I'll believe it when I see it. But apparently everybody else has dropped out, and Steve Cohen is the last man standing and has offered less of a bid than he did the last time, which was, if they were smart, they would have took it in December, the idiots. But going along the line of the Wilpons, they're going to get less money. The thing I don't understand is, and maybe you guys can tell me about, is that I don't get it. I always thought you put a bid in, and that's the bid. the highest bid, whatever, wins, and that's who gets the team. They all dropped out. He put a bid in, and now he's got to negotiate with them. There should be nothing to negotiate. I put the bid in by the deadline. That's the money you're going to get. Where is this exclusive, all of a sudden, exclusive negotiations? I don't understand that. Can somebody clarify that?
Well,
Gary, it's not eBay. Where you put the bid in and they accept your bid and that's it.
Gary, I'm no expert, but just because they put a bid in, I guess the Wilpons could really sell to anybody they want. I mean, they don't have to accept the highest bid. Obviously, it's stupid not to. Number one. Number two, I guess it's like selling a house. You put a bid in, accept it, then you can negotiate. You have this you got to fix, that you got to fix. So it's things that things underneath the surface that they got to look at. Look at the financials. Look at the debt that's on the stadium and whatnot. So it's a lot of big money deals, very, very complicated. I wish I was in them, but I'm not.
But all of that have been
Your uncle is.
in this time when they put in the initial bid and then there was a gap. Shouldn't all of that stuff been done in that time? So when the final bid came in, I mean, they could just say, we're not going to take that bid now. And then we went through this whole circus of saying, yeah, we're going to take the bids and, the final bid, we'll look at the highest bidder and all this kind of stuff. So it was all a big circus then. It meant nothing at all. And though I believe that they do want to sell, and I think it's because they want to sell by the end of the year, I think, because of capital gains. We don't know what's going to happen in the election. They don't want to get hit with a big capital gains tax if somebody gets elected. And so that's my guess. They're motivated sellers, but I don't get it.
I just want to clarify one thing that you said, Gary. You say that they want to sell. I don't think they want to sell. I think they have to sell.
Well, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think from that point they have to sell, and they have. They want to sell though by the end of the year due to the election. Let's put it that way. But
okay.
I don't think they got enough money after this year to really continue on next year. So,
and like you guys said, it looks like because what I had read, they've lost $100 million or more, and they can't continue to operate that way. And the contract being finalized, there's probably a lot of paperwork. The lawyers want to make a lot of money and read it over and make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And I'm cautiously optimistic, though I've said before and I'll say again, I'll believe it when Uncle Stevie is at the podium being announced as the new owner of the Mets. So in closing on this issue, I'll say, stay optimistic and keep the faith, and let's go Uncle Stevie. Buy the Mets and let's move on from this disaster that's known as the Wilpons and Brody, and maybe a new manager too. Maybe just a total house cleaning once Uncle Stevie is the official owner of the Mets.
Len?
Yeah, Gary, there's a few things. One, why didn't anybody tell me that everybody would be wearing hats tonight? Okay? I mean, okay. I guess for anyone listening to this podcast, they're just saying, what the hell is he talking about? But so everybody is wearing a hat except me. I feel very left out.
But you said you haven't moved from that spot for 2 weeks.
That's
so if
true.
you didn't have a hat spot, well, I guess you could have asked your wife to bring you one.
Yeah, you're good point. Very good.
Have you barbecued?
I couldn't. I had to have everything brought to me. Anyway, and then we're talking about the sale of the Mets, right? And what the bids and all that.
Who cares?
I lost train of thought. But Gary, one thing, because we're talking about money and the Mets losing money, I don't think it's so unrealistic. Maybe from the one season. But if this continues, I could definitely see a team, Major League Baseball team. It might be another sports team, hockey, I don't know, basketball, where they have financial troubles and have to, well, either sell or fold because the teams are going to lose money. And, you know, some of these smaller market teams that don't have fans, they don't have big TV revenues, they don't have the fans. And I wonder how, you know, how they're going to survive. As far as the Mets go, yeah, it should have been something that said, you know, if you're going through everything, you know, these, and I know they've got money and all that, not the Wilpons, but these groups that are bidding, and, you know, you take your chances. But obviously they had to put lawyers together and you know, go through all this, and then to just not have anything happen. I could imagine that, I know that, you know, obviously there's disappointment. I know the A-Rod J-Lo group has expressed disappointment, but like with Cohen, this is his second time. And I would think if something doesn't happen now, I don't think third time is going to be the charm. So they better get this done and negotiate, get this done, because I don't see anybody else swooping in and stealing, you know, the team. So if the Wilpons truly want to sell, it looks like Cohen is their best option. Whether they like him or not, and he offered a little less this time, it's still billions of dollars. So, you know, I see Barry's crossing his fingers. Remember, most people are just listening. Barry's crossing his fingers. And yeah, but
I'm multitasking.
hopefully they end up selling. But if the Wilpons do need to sell this team, I mean, it's not like he's offering, you know, chump change. It's billions of dollars. So,
well, I think they're going to want that what was it, $2.5 million less that he's going to get it for. I think they're going to want that now, and I would tell them, you know, look, there's no guarantee I'm going to make money in here for 5 years. The way people are moving out of New York, is there going to be anybody left to go to the games when they let us go back to the games?
It's going to take a while for everybody to go back, that's for sure. First of all, Len, let me just tell you that A-Rod and J-Lo, they'll be just fine. Don't worry about them. They'll be just fine. The difference is A-Rod and J-Lo, their group, they had to get a consortium of other people to come in and loans from the bank and lines of credit and all that. Uncle Steven just had to write a check. That's all he has to do. That's the big difference.
Right. And I think they knew that too. And they were going to try to go as far as they could down the line. And then once I think he came in, I think that they kind of figured that's why they went to talk to Kraft, and they were trying to get some more heavy hitters in, probably to get more leverage and cash into this consortium, if you will. But it didn't work, and you know, they had to drop out when they figured that he was going to win the bid anyway. But apparently, winning the bid doesn't mean a thing to this sort of money deal. So, all right, we all hope then that it does go through. But I don't know who else, but I don't trust it until, as Barry said, I see Uncle Stevie at the podium saying he's the owner of the Mets, and they give him the keys to the City Field. I almost said Shea. They give him the keys to City Field and the office there. Subject, Edwin Diaz. You guys wanted to talk about it, so start chatting. Anybody can start.
All right, I'll start. It's what can we say? He's not been used the way he should be used, but there's still no excuse for some of these performances. But I will, and it's going to sound like I'm defending Diaz, but 3 times in the past week or so, I think since we were last on, the manager has brought him into situations where either the bases were loaded or there were multiple runners on base, and say what you want about Diaz's performance in those situations, but when he comes into a game in a clean inning, he usually performs okay. With the bases loaded or with men on base, forget about it. You just the game on Sunday, you just knew it was going to happen, and that got me so depressed. I didn't even watch the second game. Having said that, if they had a better option, they would go to him. They put Seth Lugo in the starting rotation, which now seems like another ridiculous move, because if you're only going to get 3 innings out of Lugo in a 9-inning game, what difference does it make where the 3 innings come from? And Diaz is obviously not reliable, saying you can only use him in a clean inning. Well, you can't always have your closer come in with a clean inning. There are going to be times when you need your closer to get out of a bases loaded situation, and you have to be able to rely on him. And obviously, you can't rely on Diaz. So, having said that, I really don't know what to say now. I guess they have to just keep throwing him out there, but they really should try to stay away from bases loaded situations and just try and get him into a game in the clean inning. Now, that Sunday game, the Mets had a 7-2 lead going to the bottom half of the 7th inning. You would think that game should be over. And say what you want about Diaz, but that game, his predecessor, and the games before that, they were the ones that put the runners on base. So you got to put some of the blame on the rest of the bullpen too. I mean, Justin Wilson was good last year. He's been terrible this year. So that leaves you with pretty much nobody that you can rely on in the bullpen. And I know in the second game, he blew up and gave up a grand slam. But I've been saying for weeks, that I've been messaging you guys, why not give Drew Smith the opportunity to close out these games? Could he be any worse?
Nobody could be worse than Diaz. I don't even think any of us could be worse than Diaz. I could roll the ball to home plate and throw a strike probably than he could.
Okay, then Gary, how do you explain the Friday night game when he came in? I think the score was 6-4, and it was 1-2-3, strikeout, ball game over. Mets win. The Mets win.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every now and then.
But I think you're being a little unfair when you say that.
Familia comes
I
in.
mean, when the inning is a clean inning, generally speaking, he does okay. He's not the disaster that he is when there are men on base. And the same was true last year.
But you can't always have a clean inning. That's what he's supposed to.
Well, true. That's true.
Close is supposed to close the door. He's supposed.
Yes, that's right. I'm sorry, I can't stay in anymore. Okay, I've been you podcast listeners don't see me. I'm going out of my mind. He's a reliever. He's a closer. You don't come in every inning clean. That's a closer's role isn't to come in when there's nobody on base. He's a closer. His role is to come in when there's runners on base. I don't care if there's bases loaded. He's supposed to stop it. If that's the role he has, that's supposed to be no clean inning. That's
Au contraire, my friend. Well, the baseball fan in me agrees with you, but that's not the way the game is played anymore. Tony La Russa started with bringing Dennis Eckersley in for 1 inning, clean inning thing, and that's how this whole thing started. And if he doesn't come in if he comes in with runners on, he's going to blow it. It's just happened.
I know, but
I agree with you. I think a pitcher should be able to pitch.
Then he shouldn't be a closer. And I'm going to say something on Mets-Musings that's going to be, I'm probably going to burn up. So watch me get struck by lightning. This is why Mariano Rivera was great.
Yeah, but Len, he came in with clean innings too.
But he also came in with runners on base.
Rarely.
But
Rarely.
you guys, You can't tell me that a closer
Rarely he
is supposed
did
to
that.
come in a clean inning.
I agree with you, but that's not how it's played anymore.
Oh, I don't
Rarely he did
care.
that.
Oh, how it's played anymore. Then he's not your closer. Then he should be.
There's no such thing as a close coming in with runners on. Rarely it happens. You know, they make a big deal. Oh, 4 outs. And that's a big deal these days. You know, a 5-out save. Oh, my God. It doesn't happen anymore.
So from now on, when there's bases loaded or there's a runner on second or a runner on first, if it's not a clean inning and your closer comes in, you basically say, look, we know you're going to give up the run, but someone's got to pitch the inning.
They're gonna put less than their best in at that situation because they want the best having nobody on base in a clean inning.
Oh, boy.
Well, tell me what I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me it doesn't happen.
It does happen, but it shouldn't happen.
Well, I agree with you, but that's the way it happens now.
Your reliever is supposed to be able to finish the game.
But they don't. They have to have a clean inning. God forbid they don't.
I can't believe you guys. What is going on?
Look, I'm with you. I'm old school. Give me a guy with 2 on, 7th inning, 1 out, bring in the guy, pitch the rest of the game. Sausage did that all the time. They don't do it now these days.
That shouldn't be old school. It should be now school. It should be every school, private school, college, master's degree. Every school, prep school. I'm sorry.
School hard knocks.
Why? You tell me he can't? So he comes in and you just know he's going to give up a run. I mean, what craziness is that?
They have a solution to the whole thing, then start him. Let him be the first inning.
Right.
And then they can take
that's
a
true.
clean inning. And see what constitutes a clean inning, though? Because, I mean, if he walks the first guy, then do you take him out of the game right away because it's not a clean inning now?
Oh, no, they have to play 3 batters now. With Familia, that's easy. Put him in, there's a runner on right away. You might as well just put the guy on.
And the fact is, that's why I think Diaz has a 2.27 ERA or whatever.
Yeah, not bad.
He lets everybody else's runners come
Exactly.
in.
Right. And he doesn't get charged with it.
He doesn't get charged, and then he's out. Yeah.
But guys, if he had a better option, wouldn't that guy become the closer? Now that they've committed to Lugo in the starting rotation, they really don't have a better option than Diaz.
I think I'd put Guillorme in. I think his just as good.
The problem is with bullpens now, and you know what? I really don't blame Rojas for this.
Whatever it is.
But the bullpen
Look at the Yankee manager, the moves he made during the week. The Yankee fans must have been going bonkers. He took out Jay Happ on Saturday at a one hit shutout going. He looked like he could go on. He took him out, and boom, the Mets tied the game. In the night before, he brings in Chad Green. He gives up 3 home runs. I mean, Boone handed that first game to the Mets on Friday night. And I think we would all agree that if we could switch managers with the Yankees, we'd do it in a heartbeat.
You know what? Like I was saying, with Rojas with the bullpen management, it's really not his fault because the games are now so scripted that they have the ground pitches 6 innings and they have a 7th inning guy, an 8th inning guy, a 9th inning guy. What happens with say Jared Hughes comes in, pitches 7th inning, gets 3 outs, pitches well. Why take him out? I don't understand it. Got to take out for the 8th inning guy. It's scripted. That's the way the game is now, which is horrible. Why take out a guy when he's pitching well?
So do we managers now? I mean, can't we just hand the umpire the script and then in the 6th inning say, okay, deGrom, you're out, and this guy's coming in?
That's what happens. It's scripted now.
It's ridiculous, but
of course it is.
I mean, they're ruining the game. But we've said that and thought about that for years. But it's this year in particular, I think you've shown a lot of things that are just plain stupid, and they try these other stupid ideas with this runner on second, the designated hitter, and all of that other crap, and it's I mean, I see less cardboard cutouts. They're starting to walk out on them. It's crazy, and who knows what's going to happen when people come back. If people come back, I bet you one thing. I don't think they would have walked out on that game the other day if there were people in the stands, because they would have had some revolution going on in the stands. Then they would have had a lot of revolt. A revolt going on in the stands. People would not have stood for that then, so they got away with it this time. But and then Mattingly was cursing because he had to come back to New York yesterday. Well, why did you agree to it then? You shouldn't agree to it. You should have just said, no, we're ready to play the game. And if they walked off the field, the Mets, then they forfeit the game. Plain and simple. If I was Major League Baseball, it would be a forfeit anyway. Anybody that walked off, it's a forfeit. There shouldn't be any politics in sports. It's ruining the game, and this Manfred is just a complete moron with all of these changes he's trying to do, and letting them and all of these commissioners kowtowing to these political groups. It's just downright disgusting. I haven't watched the game in since when they walked off the field. I stomached the night before with the kneeling, which is another thing. When they walked off the field, that was it. I haven't seen a game since then. I don't usually watch the Yankee series anyway because I hate interleague play and I hate the Yankees, and I don't want to see their fans.
Well, Gary, you didn't miss much. I mean, you missed some horrible baseball, but that's about it.
You know what? It's getting so bad that on social media, people are wishing Mickey Callaway was back, and we ran him out of town. I thought at the end of the year they were going to come after him with the tar and feather, and now they want him back. So, are the fans nuts or I didn't think he did it. I said on this show that I think he deserved another year. I don't think he got a fair shake from the Mets. And, and look what the mess they got into. They hired Beltran. Beltran gets named in this thing by Manfred. Coincidentally, the only player named in this was Carlos Beltran. He's out, and they bring in Rojas, and Rojas is definitely he's in over his head.
I don't know about that, Gary. I just think he's in a bad situation where, like I said, he doesn't have much in the bullpen, and it's scripted anyway. I mean he's just following the script, following his boss's orders.
He's got bad supplies. He's got bad tools. You can't say to me, build a house, and then give me crappy tools and supplies and expect me to build you something nice. I just think, look, he's not hitting for Alonso. Alonso is in the order, and he's not hitting. The team.
That's what I mean, though. Then somebody's got to stand. He's got to stand up there to the general manager and say, "Look, this guy's not hitting. I'm sitting him." And
who is he sitting up for, though?
Does it matter at this point? Really, does it matter? Rosario couldn't buy a hit if send them. How come they're not sending him? Drew Smith pitches a perfect inning, and then they send him back down to Brooklyn the next day to the alternate camp.
Well, that's not. I don't think that's Rojas.
No. Why hasn't Rosario been sent back down there? Why hasn't Diaz been sent back there? All these guys should have been sent back to the minors or whatever you want to call it for this stupid exhibition season that they're playing. It's just a joke. And this whole organization, Cohen should come in here and clean house. And when I say clean house, I mean clean house from top to bottom. I'm cleaning out the scouting department. I'm cleaning out the analytics department. I'm firing Brody. I'm firing the entire coaching staff and bring in baseball guys and start over. I'm firing half the team. To me, everybody's up for trade. He needs to blow this team up and just say, and tell people, tell the fans, look, I'm blowing it up. It's not working. Our farm system has been depleted. We need to build our farm system up, and we'll try to be competitive, but don't expect a lot for the next 2 years. And then build a team from there. Get what you can for these guys while they're popular. If it means trading Jacob deGrom, that because he's going to be the most take, then you trade him. If it means, because what good is it going to be? They're going to piece it together again, and the next 2 years he's going to be unable. I mean, he's not going to be as good, and they're still not going to have a winning team. So what's the difference? Trade him to a contender, doing him a favor right now before it's before it's too late. And if you can get something for Dom Smith, then you trade him. If you can get something for Pete Alonso, everybody's up for trade. And if the deal fits, you make it. If it doesn't, you don't make it naturally. If somebody says they're going to give you, 30th round draft pick or something, forget that. But if somebody's going to give you a first or a second rounder for a Pete Alonso or a Dom Smith, I'm trading him. First baseman or a dime a dozen. We've seen that all the time. You can pick up somebody and and to play the position. So I don't know. And you guys can chime in with whatever.
Well, Gary,
Yeah,
you started.
you're
talking about.
down on Alonso, and I guess I can't really believe you, but I think I have to think twice before trading a guy that young with that kind of power, who is the drawing card. But yeah, I basically get what you're saying, and I in part agree with you. Now, the time to have traded Jacob deGrom was before you gave him that 5-year, 137 or something $1 million contract. In fact, we might have done a roundtable a couple of years ago, and I might have proposed that. That would have been like probably 2018. And I even think I remember saying that a team like the Indians were really going for it, and they just made a humongous trade the other way, dealing away Mike Clevenger and getting back a boatload of prospects. But they still have a very solid team, so they know what they're doing. But at that time, those young players that are now stars on the Indians hadn't developed yet. And can you imagine if deGrom was in that rotation with Justin Bieber's brother or cousin or whatever his first name is, and all those other guys? And just think of the prospects you could have got back for deGrom at the time. Plus, you wouldn't have had to pay him that $137 million contract. And he's worth every penny of it. But for his sake, it would have been the best thing for his career. Because like Harry said, right now, he is wasted on the Mets. So blowing it up and starting over again, I'm really all right with that. The critical thing, and I'm kind of doubling down on what I said last time, is who you're bringing in. Just once again, and I'm going to change my Islanders hat. A couple of years ago, at this time, they had lost their best player, John Tavares, and the hockey experts of the world said, you got to blow it up, start from scratch. Well, lo and behold, they bring in Lou Lamoriello, one of the great general managers in sports. He hires Barry Trotz, who had just come off of winning the Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals. The Islanders barely made any moves. The team they have now is very close to the team they had 2 years ago. I mean, they made one big trade at the deadline this year. But by and large, the Islander team of 2020 is the same team as the Islander team of 2018, minus John Tavares. But look where they are now, and look what the experts were saying what they needed to do then. Well, they have a Hall of Fame general manager, a probable Hall of Fame coach, and they may win the Stanley Cup this year. So the point is that the Mets have to bring in someone, along the lines of a Lou Lamoriello, or when they brought in Frank Cashin in the 80s. And before you know it, that farm system was loaded with talent. And by 1985, they were contenders. Actually, by 1984, they were contenders, and 2 years later, they were world champions, although they probably should have won another World Series or two. They were a very good team for a very long time.
Well, but they have to build up that farm system again. They've
Yeah.
got a lot of players on this team that want to win. What they don't have is winning players. That's the difference. They don't have players that will do anything to win. They also we want to win. Everybody wants to win. But there's a difference, there is a reason in the world why there are winners and why there are losers, why there is the major leagues and the minor leagues. They don't have winning players. And that's what they need. They need players to win. I mean, I hate the Yankees, but Paul O'Neill was a winning player. Was he a great player? No. But there's nobody on the Mets like that. That's why they need to blow it up. They were too concerned. They were too concerned, and this goes back to Alderson, too concerned with power and too concerned with multiple position players. And they signed these shortstops out of the Dominican Republic and they draft shortstops coming out of college, and they can't play shortstop. So they end up either that they've got real good shortstops that can't hit, or they got guys that have played shortstop their whole career, can't play anywhere else, and then they bring them up because they can hit, like a Wilmer Flores, and then they don't have a position for him. And then you put him in third base, he stinks there. You put him in second, he's not great there. You put him in first. I mean, you stick him in the outfield. Daniel Murphy. Another example. They stuck him in left field. Lucas Duda, they stuck him in left field. He was a first baseman. They stick him in left field. This is what I mean by blowing up the whole organization. They got to get baseball people in there and scouts that recognize people where they're going to play early on and stick to that and let them work there and train there and let them play together. So, that they can rise through the ranks. Maybe you can get, like the Dodgers did. They had an infield. The whole Dodger infield played together in the minors, came up to the major leagues. You don't see that nowadays. Now you get a pinch here and a pinch there and maybe, a little bit here. And then they don't give the guy a chance. Galorme was hitting over 300. Are they playing him now?
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Jimenez was hitting. All right, he got hurt.
He's not hitting anymore.
He's not hitting anymore.
He's in a big slump. So.
But they pulled him out of the lineup for a while he was still hitting. We don't know with these guys unless you play them. This was the perfect year to play these guys because it doesn't really to most fans. I shouldn't say to most fans. I don't know. It doesn't matter though. Everybody's going to say this is an asterisk year, and nobody really cares unless you win. If you win, you're going to go, oh. But are you going to remember this team? If they won, you're going to remember this team with the same feelings that you have for the 69 or the 86 team?
No, well, you're not going to anyway because you can't be in the stands. So there's not going to be anybody saying I was at Game 6, I was there. It's just not going to be the same feeling anyway. So a few things, Barry, you've got a new podcast called Islanders Insights with Barry Newman. All right, Islanders Insights with Barry Newman. I like it. Okay, Gary, before. You mentioned Rojas, but then you were talking about the organization. The moves, Rojas really isn't the one who's doing those moves. I mean, that's supposed to be the GM, right? So it's not Rojas.
Yeah.
But
they're all going.
Okay. And I've always agreed with you because I've always said it. You've got to blow up the team. I agree. Because, again, and everyone says, oh, you're crazy. deGrom's so great. It's like having the $1,000 tires on a jalopy, okay? deGrom, yes, he's great. And when he comes in and pitches, he pitches 6 strong innings. They don't score, they lose the game. So what? He it's great to have a beautiful, a nice front door, but on a crappy rundown home. That's what these pieces are that aren't doing anything. I know what Barry's saying, it was just Tavares, whatever, with the Islanders. The Mets, they've got a few pieces that are really worth something. If they had somebody in place, somebody who has done it before, a GM, like maybe on the Cubbies. I know there's somebody, we have a friend of our podcast who will be upset, but, if you go to a team, Mr. Cohen says to them, I want to make you an offer you can't refuse. I want you to come to the Mets. I want you to build it. I would trust someone like that to make those moves and to move a deGrom, to move an Alonso, to move these guys. And I agree with you. If they came in and they said, look, we know that it's not easy rebuilding, but we're telling you right now, like you said, we'll try to be competitive, but we're breaking it down, but we're not staying this way. We're going to build it up. You be patient with us. You are going to see. We're going to spend the money. When the free agents fit, we're going to get them, and we're going to build this team up. I think you'd have a fan base that would say that's great, because otherwise what you have is, you get lucky every once in a blue moon, like you said, even a blind squirrel finds the nut once in a while. But we want a team that's going to compete year after year, where our farm system comes in, the players come in, they fill holes. That's what they do. So I agree with you. It's time to do that, and that's the way they need to go.
Well, I'm going to take the opposite view.
Of course.
Just to give a different perspective, with Mr. Cohen coming and Uncle Stevie, I'm not sure if he's going to start blowing things up. I don't know if he's going to clean house. He might be the type of guy who just sits back, let's assess what we have, and then I'll make changes. So it might not be immediate. That's all I'm saying.
I think it's obvious what we have. I think it's obvious what we have.
Well, he's going to have to do
obvious what we don't have.
He's going to have to do his own evaluation.
But
He's not going
He's
to
not a baseball guy. He needs to get people in here who are. His mistake is going to be if he thinks he's a baseball guy and he's going to do things with it, because he's not the one that's going to observe. He needs people in here who are going to observe.
He's going to do what he wants to do because he's the guy calling the shots.
But then I don't want him as the owner.
Well, he's going to come in. Well, let's say maybe he will blow it up. People say everybody's fine and get out. Or he might say, look, I want to sit back, assess what we got, and then I'll make the changes where it's needed. I mean, the man has been very successful in his life. Whatever works for him is going to work for him.
So let's take that viewpoint, that angle of it, if you will, and say, okay, so he comes in and he signs a Real Muto, or he goes after Real Muto, he signs a Bauer. He better than, I mean, really, and unless you're going to sign 3 or 4 of the top starting pitchers, and I don't even know who's available next year. I think Bauer is probably the best free agent pitcher available next year.
Probably.
Somebody, and you're going to have Syndergaard coming back off of an injury, and you got
Again.
the usual. So then you still got to fill in 4 and 5. So you're going to have Matz and Peterson. Okay, is that a winning combination? You still got a problem with the bullpen. You still got a problem. You don't know who's going to hit. Is Alonso going to be, we don't know which the real Alonso is. Is he going to be Joe Charbonneau, or is he going to be, is he going to come back next year? There's so many questions that I think it's time to blow it up, because we keep, do you want an 85-win team every year and be close to the wild card? Maybe make it every year. Every year you make the wild card or something. Or do you want a team that's going to win 90, 95 and try to win?
Well, Gary, if you win 85 games, guess what? You're making the playoffs. I know it's this year, but it might be forever. It might be going forward.
And one thing they have to do is they have to improve the defense on this team. I mean, even when the Mets won the pennant, they were, and I'm being kind here, a below average defensive team, and now they're a terrible defensive team. I mean, look at the plays they start every night. They are below average in just about every position, and they're hideous in others, no matter who you put out there. And that's something that they have to change. It. Maybe that's why a lot of times they look like they're just going through the motions. You're playing a first baseman in left field, you're playing a corner outfielder in center field, and Met fans love Brandon Nimmo. He's a good guy. He's a nice player, but to be honest about it, on a good team, he's really a fourth outfielder. I mean, Conforto is a good player, but he's not a great player, but he's a good player. Rosario looks like he's making some progress, but yeah, I mean, he's nothing special defensively. When Jimenez is in the infield, when Guillorme is in the infield, they're a better defensive team. But I don't think the Mets have been a good defensive team since the days of Olerud, Alonso. Yeah, listen to that. Alfonso, Ray Ordonez, and Robin Ventura. And then they were great defensive infield at least. I mean, it's just remarkable how many runs they let each. Just I guess you'd call them like team errors. I mean, balls that would be caught by normal defensive players drop in, or they just hit off fielders' gloves, and the runs end up being earned. I think the other day Jake ended up giving up 4 runs, or I think there was an error in there. And poor Jake, I saw the stat. I think Jeff, you were the one that sent it to us about the number of no decisions he's had over the years, which is like 4 times the next guy. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it amazes me that he ever wins a game. I mean, the games that deGrom starts, you know what's going to happen. You can predict it a mile away. It's amazing to me that he ever wins a game. You would think that unless Jake's the kind of guy that he just lets it roll off his back, that he would say, I'm fed up with this. Just get me the you-know-what out of here, and get me to a team where somebody can actually catch the ball, or maybe they can get base runners in when there are runners in scoring position. The Mets have been leaving runners in scoring position on base for forever. And Jeff, I think you had the statistic the last time they were in the top 2 or 3 in batting average and on base percentage, but they're last or close to the bottom of the league in runs scored. You look at that lineup, they should be better. At least when you look at the names on the lineup card, the team should score runs. And not only the defensive being so far below average, there's no speed on this Mets team at all. They never manufacture runs. I mean, it's this culture. And again, even in 2015, when let's be honest, they got lucky that year. I mean, they had the great pitching, so they could overcome bad defense. They got enough clutching. Cespedes gave them a boost for those 2 months. Say what you want about what happened after that, but for those 2 months, Cespedes, the Mets kind of rode Cespedes back and the starting pitching and got to the World Series. And of course, with just a little bit of help from Daniel Murphy hitting home runs like every other at bat in the postseason. But that was not a great team. It was a good team, but it was not a great team. It certainly wasn't a built to last team, especially with the unpredictability of starting pitching. So if we're going to blow it up, we got to do it right. We've got to stop putting square pegs in round holes. The Mets have been doing this for years. Do we want to be an 85-win team every year? Well, I would have to say no. But we want to be competitive, at least having a chance to get to the World Series every year. And as far as the championship being tainted this year, well, whoever wins it, of course it's going to be a tainted championship. I don't see how with this pitching. And again, one more issue as far as the Mets prospects for this season, they were projected to be about an 85 to 88 win team. But remember, they lost Zach Wheeler to free agency, and then Noah Syndergaard goes down for the year with Tommy John surgery, and Stroman opts out. So basically, half of your, or more than half of your starting pitching staff from last year was gone. The replacements were questionable at best, so there was really no reason to think that the Mets would be an improved team at all this year, whether the season was 162 games, 62 games, or 6 games. It just wasn't realistic that they would be that good a team. And if people thought they would, they're just kidding themselves.
Well, you mentioned about the wacky season, so I think we've beat up the guys enough here, but let's discuss about what you think about this wacky 7-inning doubleheader, the 7-inning games, and there are people that are pushing for that they should go to 7-inning games all the time. Now, my brother called me up and he goes, "What the hell is it with these 7-inning games?" It reminded him when he was coaching and I was playing Connie Mack baseball, because that's what we did. We played 7-inning game double headers on Sunday. I'll just open it up. Thoughts on the 7-inning game?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of things on social media about the growing momentum of having changing the number of innings from 9 to 7 going forward. Now, someone claims it's better baseball because the starting pitcher is in there for most of the game, and it resembles the old time like it was years ago. I am not for a 7-inning game. I don't think the players are going to be for a 7-inning games because they would have to take a 22% cut in pay because they're being paying less. Now, are they going to do that? No. Will our ticket prices be 22% less? I don't think so. Will cable bill go down 22%? No. So, it's ridiculous. And all the statistics of over 100 years of baseball will now have to be rejiggered to reflect a 7-inning game. Strikeouts per 9 innings, ERA, it's all going to change. So I'm so against having a 7-inning game. It's ridiculous. Who knows? One day Manfred might change his, hey, you know what? Maximum amount of time of our game is 2.5 hours. We stop after 2.5 hours. That's it. I can see him doing something stupid like that.
No to 7-inning games. No to 7-inning games. I mean, first of all, then what's a quality start? 4 innings? I mean, yeah, and then they'll say, okay, well, you're going to get a lot more complete games by the pitchers. You know what's going to happen? You're going to get pitchers that'll go 3 innings and be like, oh, now we bring in the reliever in the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. We have our middle inning guys, and then we bring in our closer in the 7th. No, and you cannot. You know what? Wait, we're going to do 7-inning games, so the game is shorter. And the players, maybe there's less chance of them getting hurt. Why don't we now shorten the base paths too, so the guys don't have to run as far? That way they don't exert themselves too much. Come on.
Lower the standards. Well, you're not doing well on a test. Lower the standards.
Right. And yes. And the other thing is these double headers that are 7 innings. If somebody throws a no-hitter in the 7 innings, it's not considered a no-hitter. Well, it's not the pitcher's fault that the game's over. I mean, he can't say, well, wait, I would like to try for a no-hitter. Sorry, it's 7 innings, you're done. But that's not a no-hitter. Anyway, they're playing with the game. They're playing with the game too much. This season, forget it. I understand why they're doing the 7-inning doubleheaders. I understand all this. But going forward, you cannot make changes like that. Don't play with the game as much. You can't. Don't do it.
But look at
I'm okay with it for this
Wait,
year.
what, Gary? Look at what?
Just for this year only. Just go back to the Sunday game, what we'll call it the Edwin Diaz blow-up game. And that game took over 3 hours. It was a 7-inning game. Just cannot even fathom what that game would have been like if it had been a 9-inning game. So for this year, and this year only, the 7-inning games when it's a doubleheader, I can live with it. Len, as far as the statistics, yeah, I mean, if the starting pitcher goes 4 innings in a 7-inning game, shouldn't he be credited with the win instead of having to go 5 just like he would in a 9-inning game? And yeah, these statistics are all whacked out, but everything about 2020 is whacked out. So I guess we just have to get through it and hope that things are better and we get back to some kind of normalcy next year. I really don't think, except for the designated hitter, that these other rules that have been put in for 2020 are going to go forward. At least I hope they're not. I really don't think they will, except for the DH. That's here to stay, like it or not. That I don't think the DH is going to be for 1 year only. And the other, like the runner on second base, I just don't see that going forward after this year. I mean, the idea this year is to shorten the games, to try as best they can to protect the health of the players. But if they really cared about that to begin with, they could have just canceled the season entirely or tried to do it like I think we all proposed, to do it in a bubble like the basketball and hockey leagues are doing, where they haven't had one positive test for COVID in weeks. And one other thing I wanted to bring up, the postseason. The Oakland A's had a couple of positive tests over the weekend for COVID. What happens the last week of the season if a team comes up with a positive test? And the playoffs are like the next day or a couple of days away. Well, what happens to that team if they're going to the playoffs? They've been screaming all this time that they have to finish the season by the end of September and finish the postseason by the end of October. The last couple of days of the season, somebody comes up with COVID, and it's one of the playoff teams. Let's just say the Yankees or the Dodgers come up with a positive COVID test. What happens to the playoffs if something like that happens? I just wonder if they're just making this all up as they go along. I mean, it's just nuts.
Well, it is just nuts. But as I was going to say before, look at the bright side with the 7-inning. You can make Diaz your 9th-inning guy, and you never get to him. So,
That's the line of the night.
there is a plus side.
That was very good.
Okay.
All right,
And Len, I thank you for the Islanders compliment, but there are many people more qualified to do an Islanders podcast than I am. But thank you.
So you mentioned the wacky rules. Let's look at another one. The expanded playoffs. Are they going to be here to stay? I think they will. I think all of these rules
I don't think so.
are going to be
I don't
here
think so.
after the next agreement. I think we're going to see 7-inning doubleheaders for a 7-inning game for a doubleheader. I think we're going to see runners at second in extra innings. This is not they want you to believe this is an experiment this year, but this has been an experiment. They've had it the last 2 or 3 seasons in the minor leagues, and the feedback hasn't been awful, and that's a shame, but that's the way it is. And I think they're going to use that data and say that the data here is it's coming out good. They'll adjust the numbers to fit the way they want it to come out, and we will see these after, maybe not next year, but I think in 2022. That being said, the expanded playoffs, I think they're here for good. Anybody else? Jeff?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. Have more than half the teams in the playoffs. I think it's ridiculous, but I think it's here to stay. I agree with you, Gary. The one rule I don't mind is having a pitcher pitch to three batters because I think a major league pitcher should be able to pitch more than one guy in a game. I do believe that. The guy on second base, that's just not baseball. Come on, it's just so ridiculous. I think it's a horrible rule. The seven-inning doubleheaders, if they don't schedule doubleheaders anymore, it might be used for rain-out purposes to have to make up a game. Do I like it? No. Will it happen? Probably. I think Bob Manfred is going to do everything he could to change 100 years of what baseball really is. The DH, it's going to be here. I don't like it. I kind of going to accept it only because pitchers don't pitch well into the game anymore. They might get one, maybe two at bats. That's it. Then they're out of the game anyway. So I can see that happening. It's just Manfred's ruining the game, and he wants to put his stamp on it, and he's going to go down as the guy who ruined baseball. Leonard?
Oh, yeah, you know what? I think the expanded playoffs are going to mean money. Shekels. It's going to be
Right.
shekels.
Follow the money.
Yeah, shekels in the pockets of the owners. So that is going to probably be a reality. And of course, then you'll have teams that are under 500. They'll make the playoffs, and the fans of those teams will be very excited. Their teams in the playoffs, and you know what? You'll get one of those teams one day. They'll get hot, and they will win the World Series.
Right.
Where they get an under sub 500 season. That will happen. So
That will happen.
as far as the other rules, what I'm saying is do not make regulation games. I'm not saying double headers. Do not make regulation games 7 innings. The beauty of baseball is it's a 9-inning game. I mean, what are you going to do? Put a clock in it? Because, I mean, if that's, why make them 7 innings? You don't make them shorter.
9 is a great number in baseball.
Yes.
9 innings, 9 players per side, 90 feet between bases.
Yes.
9 is the number in baseball, and
Yeah, don't change that.
don't change that.
I don't like the runner on second. In the extra innings, I don't know what's going to happen. If I was the great Kreskin and I could see the future, I would tell you. I don't like it. I am one who says, as far as the DH, I don't like the DH, but I feel like you've got the DH in one league, you don't have it in the other. It's not the same game because of that. It's 2 different games, but whatever. But there's going to be rule changes, but changing the game itself is bad. But the playoffs is definitely one thing I believe that the expanded playoffs is going to become a reality.
Well, that means
I
they have to double up.
by one team, maybe go from 5 teams to 6. I really don't think that it's going to be like it is this year going forward. I mean, you would think that the players and maybe even the owners and maybe even Mr. Manfred want to keep some integrity back in the game, and for a team going through a 162 game season, having the best record in the league, and then having to be the 8th place team in the league in a 3-game series. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. That I can't see that the players would be in favor of this. And Jeff, we were talking about doubleheaders, and I think you alluded to this. Most doubleheaders now are, when they're scheduled doubleheaders, they're day-night doubleheaders. You rarely see a scheduled full admission doubleheader. So I think, based on that, well, I don't really think we're going to go back to 7-inning games for doubleheaders. I think that's a 1-year rule only, and actually kind of happy. I didn't like it at first, but having seen it in action with all these rescheduled games because of the COVID, seeing these and watching these 7-inning games that still go 3 hours because of these ridiculous true outcomes. Because, in my opinion, that's what slows down the game: the strikeouts, the walks, because that's just more pitches that have to be thrown. And then, of course, the home runs where the batter takes about 4 hours to round the bases, just admiring the flight of the ball. You do something about the way the game is played. Maybe that's how you can shorten the game a little bit. But as long as the true outcomes are so prevalent, I don't see any way that's going to change. Now, maybe it's just wishful thinking, and hopefully these changes, except for the designated hitter, are for this year and this year only. And also, these things are going to have to be collectively bargained on before the 2022, I think, because we're looking at a long strike. We may be looking at a long strike anyway. So I think for 2021, they're just going to try and just tread lightly on this. Could I see a 6-team in the playoffs? Absolutely. And the NFL's done that. And it really hasn't hurt their sport. And now they're going to add a 7th-team to the playoffs this year. And I think that's just taking it way too far. I think for the NFL, 6 teams was perfect. And for MLB, I could live with six out of 15. Anything more than that, I think you're really, really compromising the integrity of the sport.
Well, they're going to expand eventually. There's going to be expansion. So then you might see an extra playoff game, another playoff game.
Wonderful. More bad pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it'll be 6 out of 16 per
Let's
league.
keep in mind, though, with the whole COVID thing that you mentioned, that next year, if it's still around, and there's a possibility, they might talk about wanting to get seasons in quicker and may schedule double headers. And if it's, they may go to 7-game double headers and play once a month or something, a double header. And maybe that's the way they get the players union to agree to it, is to go in for a 7-inning game instead of a 9-inning game. My question is then, do we get any money back on our tickets because we were paying for 9-inning games and getting 7-inning games?
You're funny. You're funny, Gary. That's funny. That's very funny.
Yeah, will the players take less because they're playing 7 innings instead of 9
You're
innings?
funny too. Jeff, you're funny. You guys are funny.
No, nothing's going to happen like that, but I can see them doing it. Manfred's out. I don't know why. He wants to. I don't know. Are we going to get to the point where a guy hits a home run and you say you don't have to go around the bases now to save time?
Yeah, I think we'll get to that point.
Just go back to the dugout. What do you got to run around the bases for?
I'm actually surprised that they don't do that already. Right?
Well, they do it with the intentional walk.
Yeah. I'm surprised actually that they don't have the guy just, okay, home run, back to the dugout.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see it somewhere down the line as they continue to ruin the game. But
We're always so positive on this.
So, any last thoughts? Len, let's start with you.
Gary, I feel like I've gone this whole podcast and I haven't done what I've wanted to do from the very beginning, and that is to give you a Gary Mack. I'm good now. Thank you.
Okay. Barry?
Yeah, I see you have next Mets assistant GM by your name, Len. So my question is, who is the GM? If you're the assistant, who are you reporting to?
I had GM, and Jeff, who has the control here, he demoted me. I was the next GM, and he made me the assistant. But you know what? I'll go with Brian Epstein.
Okay. I'm
Will you
with
be
you
okay
there.
with that?
That would be wonderful. Well, this is always a lot of fun, and I'm glad we got to express ourselves with more time on this one. And all we can do is keep our fingers crossed, hope that Uncle Stevie does end up buying the Mets and doing the things necessary to make the team a consistent winner, and that all this other nonsense that has wrecked 2020 can get better. And if I could, I'd like to plug a couple of books that I've read this summer, and one I actually learned about from you guys on your baseball and barbecue podcast, and that's the Anika Orick book, The Incredible Women of Professional Baseball. If I got the title a little bit wrong, so be, but you know the book I mean. It's a great book, very well written, and the pictures are amazing as well. And I just finished the Mr. Met by Jay Horwitz too, and that book is great also. And he's quite a character. He's had an amazing life. God bless Jay Horwitz. The book is great. I recommend it to anybody and everybody.
And I believe he's been interviewed by both of us, right? You guys had him on, and I've had him on. So go back and look in our archives. You can look for Baseball and Barbecue and MetsMusings. Jeff, any closing thoughts?
Uh, Waiting anxiously for Mr. Cohen to come on, get up to the podium, and be the new owner of the New York Mets. We all know that he is a Mets fan, so I think he's going to want to bring a winner to New York, just like Georgie Crosstown did. But he's going to want to be for sustained success for the Mets. We know that, and I hope he does that the right way. And he's not going to be like Georgie, firing everybody right away, like hiring and firing the same guys. I just hope that he knows. I know he knows what he's doing. He's a smart guy. You don't get to be worth $14 billion by being stupid. The guy knows what he's doing. He's going to hire the right people. He's going to bring in the right team. And you know what? It's going to be a new era for Mets baseball starting in 2021.
Well, if it's a cancellation, Thornton McHenry, Dick McHenry, who was on this show a while back, on the WFAN radio today, and he says from what he knows of, because he's not a sports guy, he's a hedge fund guy, but what he knows about Cohen from covering him on the hedge funds is he's the type of guy, he may not be a hands-on guy, but he will bring baseball people in. This is what he says, so we'll see. He will bring people in, hopefully like experts, baseball people, and that will do the job. And I'm sure he'll have a little, you can't help but yourself if you're owning to make some suggestions like, call California. Maybe we can give him deGrom and somebody else for Mike Trout or something like that. But I'm sure an owner would do that. But that's what he claims. So we will have to see how that all shakes out, if and when, or should I say when and if Uncle Stevie does take over as owner of the Mets. He can't come too soon, and we can move this circus out of town, hopefully, and he can clean house and bring some true performers in instead of the clowns that BVM has been bringing in. Amazing to me how a guy could make trades on this level and not succeed in any one of them, or maybe one was good, right? But go down the list: Stroman, Diaz, Cano. Who else? The guys in the bullpen that are terrible that they traded for. I mean, just
He brought in Billy Hamilton.
oh yeah, okay. he's setting a new record. He's making Mario Mendoza look like a slugger. I'd say. So what was he hitting? 043 the last I saw. That guy, look, he might have great spirit. He can catch the ball. He certainly can run, but that's it. And as who was it? Ralph Kiner used to say, you can't steal first base.
Although that might be a new rule.
Maybe. Yeah, who knows? Yeah. But I want to thank you guys for coming on tonight and entertaining us. I hope the fans find it entertaining, and we'll be back to wrap it all up after this